Hello everyone and welcome to the 23rd edition of the UK Asian Film Festival. My name is Kaushik Bhattacharya from Press and Community Library and Milky Films in North Wembley, and I'm delighted that the festival has invited us to host this screening of the documentary Holy Right as part of the festival's programme, and talk with the film's director today, Farha Khatun. Farha is a director and an editor, and her previous films have garnered award recognition at several festivals, including the BFI Flair London LGBT Film Festival and Kolkata International Film Festival. Hi Farha, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you, Kaushik, for introducing me, and thank you, UK Asian Film Festival, for giving me this opportunity to showcase our film. And thank you for this, for giving us best vibes in this difficult time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on making the film and getting it released and having it screened at the festival. I want to start off by talking to you about why this film was personal to and important to you, and what you hope to achieve by telling Safiya's story.
This film is personal in many ways. Like I mentioned earlier for an article also. So when I was studying in 5th standard, one of my distant aunt, she came home. She was broken almost mentally, and she said that her husband told her talak twice, and before he could pronounce talak third time, she ran towards him and stopped him, put her hand on his mouth, and that's how their marriage was saved. So this story, and with this many stories that I have heard or seen closely, that stayed with me, and that's why it was very important for me to work on something that's related to Muslim personal law, and that's how this whole idea of this film came in, and I met Safiya Appa, and I started following her.
Yeah, so how did you actually first come across Safiya's story, and could you elaborate a little bit more on that journey and how the film began there?
Yeah, so I met Safiya Appa in Bombay in 2015. Initially, I was thinking of making a film on women qazis, those who decides on, they are the lawyers, on Muslim personal law, and they decides all the matters related to this. So I decided to, there were a group of women who were getting trained to become qazi. So I decided to make a film on that, and then while meeting all the women qazis there who were getting trained, I met Safiya Appa there, and I was kind of mesmerized with her personality, with her presentation of everything. It's a bit of fun, and then in that way, she is serious, she is funny, and she is everything as a filmmaker you would look forward to. And she is a person, that time she was one of the oldest in the group, and that's why it was for me. I mean, we see young people or people from middle age, they thrive for something, but when we see somebody almost our mother's age, and they are taking this challenge, and that's why it was for me, it was quite an obvious choice that I would go after Safiya Appa for a couple of years. And yeah, I met her in Bombay, and then I continued going to her house in Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal. And yeah, I continued.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you've raised there, because that's something that I felt immediately while seeing her story unfold, and the way she spoke and connected with younger women as well in the story. And it's brilliant to see that kind of generational gap being closed a little bit, and you wouldn't expect that, but like she's so confident, and she's so kind of like steadfast in her approach, and like and everything that she says makes sense as well, and you wouldn't know why you'd see it any other way. So I think that's a fascinating part of the story. And I mean, obviously you filmed it over a few years, and there must have been, I mean, it was great that you managed to connect with Safia, but like there must have been some challenges in being able to tell the story in a very candid and yet sensitive manner, of a very difficult subject over there, but like something that you wanted to be able to portray honestly. So what were some of the challenges that you came across over those few years of filming?
First challenge was, I think, in India, so many people are religious. So I didn't want to hurt anybody's, sentiment. So I wanted to be very careful on that. And yet I wanted to bring the, truth, so that we don't get to know often, because we are not being told. And as you know, I mean, India's, most of the population are not well educated. So they depend on either a religious preacher or somebody to convey things to them. So in that process, in that, conveying through a third person, sometimes some informations, get missed. So, I mean, those were the challenge. I had to, for each and everything, each and every shot, each and every word that we kept in the film, I had to be very careful. And while shooting also, every time we were meeting new people, new, women groups, we kind of had to convince them that, I'm from the community, I'm not doing anything that will hurt you, my motive about it. I have been always transparent to them, what I am doing, why I am doing, and why it is important for us to tell this story now. So I think, yeah, in that way, all the time I had to, go through that, convincing more. But Safia Appa being there, she was very supportive also, made the journey a bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you managed to touch upon some of the resistance at the rally that you filmed at Kolkata, and like some of the women were very suspicious of what you were doing when you were speaking to some of the women who were speaking out. I think, was that quite challenging to get around, and like how did you overcome some of those challenges? Did it hinder some of the story that you wanted to tell, or like did it reshape it in such a way that you managed to focus it as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, but I was not very surprised that this will not happen to me. I was kind of expecting this, but we are not always prepared that in what form it will come. But I was kind of prepared that something like this will any day can happen, because I'm dealing with a very sensitive issue, and by then it has become political in Indian scenario. So when we went to this particular Maidan, we called it Maidan, and there were lots of people, thousands and thousands of people gathered there, and we were shooting, and it was very hard for us to find where are the women. Everywhere we looked around was full of men around us, and then somehow we went to one corner, and there we found some women were there, and we didn't really get a chance or get that space to talk to them about what I'm doing, why I'm doing, and all that, because it was in the middle of this whole conversation. On the stage, these guys were telling whatever they had to tell. They were telling how to protect women and all, and in the whole stage there were almost 25, 26 people, and there were no women. And this whole issue they were talking about dealing with women. So finally, when I found them, I just straight away asked them, the questions that you heard in the film. And that's how they reacted. I mean, it was kind of disappointing for me that some women also supported it, because it was very harmful for all the women, because most of the women here in India are not economically dependent. They are dependent on somebody else, and hardly they have their own house. Either they live, before marriage they live in their father's house, and then they live in their husband's house. So with all these, it's difficult. And had they understood, it would have been a different scenario. But yeah.
I think you reflect that very well in the film, actually, and the kind of the difficulties that women face in India because of dependencies and like the dominance of male voices speaking for them and over them. And that's obviously an issue that is very relatable globally as well. I mean, it's a very specific story to India and Muslim women in India, but it's something that I felt that as an outsider myself, because I'm not Muslim myself, but like I think it's something that I could understand, seeing issues that women suffer from around the world, and there's some relatable issues there. And obviously, I think Safiya mentions at one point in the film about the lack of representation being an issue, and like I think that kind of like follows through in the fight. And I want you to talk about a bit more about that kind of the lack of representation and what the work is that is required to try and change those attitudes, maybe in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of representation, I think there are lots of women out there, Muslim women or women, who are continuously talking about women rights and all, but it's not being heard enough. It's not being given enough importance to these things. And for me, Kaushik, when I was making this film, for me, it was not only about Muslim women. I grew up in a mixed area where, I lived around people from all religions. And if I'm looking, if I'm, hearing a story from a Muslim family about talaq, I'm hearing a story of domestic violence from another another women from another religion. For me, these all are same, and these all are just a part of domestic violence and just a part of abusing the power. Those who have the power, they want to show their power somehow. So for me, these all are same. But I believe there are a lot many women, and especially Muslim women also, I know many of them, but unfortunately, it's a sad scene that unless we look Muslim, people are not really wanting to give enough, focus of you being representative of that particular community. I remember one incident in a seminar. One journalist, she was talking about, she went to cover one election story, and she was told to find out some Muslim women to talk about the election and what they are feeling. So she herself was a Muslim, and then she found out some woman, and she sent the picture to her boss, and she said, I found out some and we are going with them. And then he said, they are not looking Muslim. Right, so yeah. This is the problem. I think there are many women now, and we need to change our mindset to recognize people from different community in a different way. Things has to be more generalized.
Absolutely. I think there's a big topic about intersectionality as well, and like these issues being intersectional as well between communities and relatable. So I think you touch upon the film at the end, even though Safiya does win a victory of sorts with the campaign in terms of making the instant talaq unconstitutional. There's then a bit of, it's marred a little bit because like it doesn't feel like the government seemed to understand the needs and the rights and needs of women in India at the time, which makes her life and job in what she's doing very difficult. So I don't know if you can speak more on that particular thing on a kind of government basis as well.
Yeah, this whole maintenance and things around triple talaq, the women movement, almost this whole topic and the talk around this started in 1978. I mentioned in the film also with Shah Bano case, but unfortunately all the time these things were up in the news. Every time it became political, whether it's that time during Shah Bano's case, it was in detail, it was discussed in parliament, and there were remarks that that were not that shouldn't have happened, but and this time also it became political. So I mean, the feminist women's movements, the feminist Muslim women's movement, have been hijacked by the more powerful forces. But I think with time and with what we need to do is actually continue doing it, whatever means we can do it, and that's what Safiya Appa does all the time. She though this whole issue became very political and it failed to really understand what women in particular what they want. But Safiya Appa and people like her, they wish to continue with the issue, and they want to bring out more women, and they want to aware them of their rights and all. These difficulties will always be there, but yeah, what we need to do is to overcome these.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think that's the work that Safiya and like the women that she's engaging in the community is fantastic. And like I'm wondering what since the film has completed, if you've been in touch and followed her journey and what she's doing, and if you could speak a bit about that, maybe.
She is now 65. And she recently became 66. She, during this whole pandemic situation, she have been out every day. She was giving, distributing ration to people, and she was doing all these things. She is not a person with whom you can just keep inside your house. She will be always out, no matter what happens outside. And she is very vibrant, and I think whenever I sometimes get depressed or feel demotivated, I just think about her and how she is dealing with things, and that gives me kind of motivation to just go on.
Yeah, she's a very inspiring woman from what you've portrayed in the film. That definitely comes across. And so what's the film's reception been so far in India, if you've screened it there with audiences there?
In India, it had a good festival selection. I mean, we gone through all the leading festivals in India, and whatever festival we submitted, almost most of them we have we were through with them, and it got some awards also in India, and then it got the highest award also. It got the best film national award for best film on social issues.
That's amazing. So, congratulations.
Thank you. So with all this, the film was quite successful in Indian festivals. But what we really missed because of pandemic, we wanted to do a lot more physical screening. We wanted to engage with women from different parts of India, and we wanted to collaborate with many NGOs. And through this film, by screening this, and we wanted to sensitize a bit more. That we couldn't do at all. We did only one. The first screening from our side we did at Safiya's place in Bhopal. Apart from festivals, and then again this second wave hit us, and so in that way we were a bit unlucky, but festival wise we were then lucky so far.
It's been a very difficult time for filmmakers, especially I can imagine in India as well at this time, and obviously we're hoping that everyone is staying safe at this time, and like our thoughts are with India at this time, because the situation is quite bad. But like I'm hoping the power of your film will kind of carry through for many years in future, where you can actually engage with those NGOs and continue the work that you're doing with that. I think it's very inspiring as a film. And like, I mean, this year's festival theme for the UK Asian Film Festival is Ray of Hope, where they're celebrating the work of Satyajit Ray on his 100th anniversary of his birth this month. And like, I mean, me as a British Bengali filmmaker, always grew up feeling a bit inspired that, like there was a Bengali filmmaker who was well renowned and acclaimed in the West when there wasn't much South Asian representation in the film industry. But I can imagine as a Muslim woman in India, that representation, there might have been much more of a lack of representation there. And I'm interested to know how that might have shaped your journey as a filmmaker. And if you could share with us your story as a filmmaker and who inspired you and filmmakers that you've identified with, if there are any women filmmakers that you've identified with, or just generally.
In my childhood, I was always a very introvert person. So I used to stay, mostly, stay alone and all. And then I was staying at my maternal grandparents' house, and Nanu had a government job and all. And I didn't have many friends during my childhood, but I had few. So I think I lived in my dreams. I lived in my imagination, and the women around me and their stories kind of inspired me in a way that I found that the stories from rural India are not being covered or getting highlighted enough. So I thought that I should tell these stories, but I didn't know in what form. And then when I was, after completing my graduation, and then I studied in a film school, and that's how this whole thing, shaped up. Yeah. It wasn't easy, it wasn't smooth, of course, but I had been lucky because I had many good friends. My parents were extremely supportive. And I think my mom and my nanny, both these women have been a big inspiration for me. Their fight, I think, is much more bigger than, much more difficult than whatever I am facing now, or I face in this whole year, and the other women also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you're now an inspiration to other women as well, because you mentor women in rural areas in India in filmmaking workshops. If you could just finally explain some of what you're trying to achieve with that before we close the interview, that would be really great.
Yeah, I think I mostly I did this in and around Gujarat. So so what was important for me to tell these women, and I was working with Drishti. Drishti is an NGO that is based in Gujarat, Ahmedabad. And what we were really trying, that now everybody has mobile. what we all need to do is to raise our voice. And we all know that, Ritik Ghatak said that, cinema is the most powerful tool we have. So, I mean, for me, any audiovisual medium is very, audiovisual is very powerful. Once we see something, we kind of believe in it. And, it impacts us differently, more than, what we hear or something, when we see the audio and video both of these. And I was just trying to, give them confidence, just whatever you see around, just shoot. And I was just giving them a kind of, guideline, how to tell this story in a better way, in a proper way. But I think everybody has their own capacity and capability to tell their story. What we all need to do a little bit push and little bit of, give them the understanding of how this whole audiovisual medium works and all. But all these women were amazing.
Well, I think what you're doing is amazing as in that work and in the films that you're making. It's it's absolutely inspiring, and you're becoming an inspiration as a filmmaker yourself to other women, which is great. So hopefully, that inspires other women to follow the journey that you have as well. It's such a powerful medium. But I think that's a really great place to maybe close this interview today. So thank you so much for bringing the film to us to be able to screen it, and we really hope that it sees a wider and wider audience over the years, because it's such an important subject. But yeah, thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this screening. I'd just like to remind everyone that the festival is running from the 26th of May to the 6th of June, and the full program of films can be accessed on the website at www.ukaff.com. So please do go and watch Farha's brilliant movie. You're watching it now. Watch it again, because you've got 48 hours to watch it on repeat if you'd like. And do watch some of the other brilliant films that the festival's screening this year, and support South Asian filmmakers from across the world. So thank you very much, Farha.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to tell our story through, our film, and this whole interview. Thank you very much.